Hi, this is Dana, and on this channel I speak about Gnostic spirituality. In this video, God has guided me to pick up on a topic which I briefly mentioned yesterday um, about the Book of Knowledge. It's the way God wants me to talk about this today. It's something that I don't like. He asked me basically what he says is very difficult for people to understand what this Book of Knowledge means, and I need you to give an example from your personal life because there are many people who don't understand the extremely high relevance it has for them to investigate, introspect their lives, question things which you would never imagine you need to question. That's the bottom line. Yeah. So things which we were told and we grew up as adults knowing those things to be true are lies. And God says people, it doesn't even cross their mind to go into that and question and investigate to find out the truth. And without doing that, you will never be able to break free without learning this truth. So God says, I need you to talk about your personal life. This is something I don't like. I said in many videos before, I'm a very private person, and particularly about sensitive issues, personal, private, intimate things, I don't like to talk about, or if I do, I will very seldom and to very few people tell information which is important to me, unless I have guidance like now. So I asked God to limit the information that I have to share with you about this, because this is something that, of course, I as well had to learn, just like you will have to learn. I'm sharing this only so you will see what kind of information you will need to question. And I will give you a few examples guided by God, so you will understand why it's important for you to know how this can harm you, because this is some sort of truth which probably none of us would like to hear or experience, but it is the truth. And if you want to stay in light and you want to be with God, you need to know the truth. If you want to break free and you want to take back your power, you need to know the truth. And of course, you need to heal the hurt that comes with knowing the truth, you know. Okay, so I will give an example how the book of knowledge uh, can work in your life. I explained yesterday the book of knowledge is Intel info on you, but it's not true Intel info, because Intel info, I did a military school and I worked 20 years on political military aspects, and I grew up in a family where my father was an officer, so I have high respect for true officers, but there are not that many true officers. Many are just pretend, unfortunately. But this is not true intel. This is intel on you, but it's fake intel. It's counterfeited. They created that information on you. So literally, what I said yesterday is that in the Nazi camps, these individuals, these convents which worked for the Nazi system, and which turned the weapons against the Nazi system, and then made the Nazi officers victims of this entire practice. They literally decided certain individuals which had very high rights and were used by Nazi officers to feed on their energy and to take their rights of royalty, and because rights of royalty means as well, I'll give you an example. What does it mean, rights of royalty? It means rights of leadership. What does it mean? It means that where God puts you, you have the right for establishing statehood. Not anyone can establish statehood. Okay, so they need to use one of these individuals which has royal rights to create a country. Anyone can pretend to be president, But if you do not have the divine right for royalty, for statehood establishment, literally you cannot create the state. You just can't. It's astral rule, and all the darkness comes, all the wars come at you, and you cannot keep the state together. It's not just a 3D moral issue, it's a energy issue. If you do not have divine rights to establish statehood, if you're not royalty, then all the hell comes after you and the territory which you occupied. All the wars come on you, and all the other entities, structures, empires, states, whatever era you are in and whatever structures are around you will come and invade you, and you will not be able to keep the statehood. So this is not just something that we're discussing from moral perspective. Yeah, this was not done just out of just wasting time. They had good reasons to do this. So the Nazis were using royalties and feeding on their energy in order to redraw the map of Europe, basically, and occupy territory and create empire. Yeah. Now they were using these convents of gypsies, which I explained yesterday, and what these gypsy convents decided at some point were like, we created this for the Nazi officers. We can actually turn the tables around, and we can take them down, and we can use this for us to be royals. If we made them royals, why don't we make ourselves royals in their place? Okay. And they declared dead a number of individuals which had divine rights for royalty and statehood. They created fake documents of death, and also they said, in order for us to take power over this individual, we need to claim him. I, as gypsy head of group, I claim this woman to be my daughter, or to be my wife, or to be, I don't know, something, yeah, some relative, in the next lifetime. And for this reason, now I make documents of me being relative with them. So they made documents for many gypsy from the convents being relatives with the royals, which they declared dead. Yeah. And because they were gypsy convent, they set open certain portals to create that, sending spirits and witchcraft and stuff to kill that individual who was royalty, so they can claim that individual being born into the convent in the next lifetime. Those in the next lifetime, they could not only claim the individual, but the divine rights that came with the individual, namely royalty, statehood, fame, money, popularity, charm. Because when God bestows gifts of leadership on you, there's a large number of gifts. That's foresight. It's how to say this? It's charm. It's charisma. It's being popularly loved. It's a lot of everything that means leadership for a royalty in order to be followed. Yeah. Okay. So they did this, and the book of knowledge literally is a book of a number of scenarios in which they connect you with other individuals, yeah, whom are part of their convent, yeah, or are their clients, because this evolved in time, and there are individuals who are aware of this and are paying lots of money and assets in order to gain certain contracts on you, on your rights. And they divide your rights, because as a royalty you have many rights. You have leadership, you have business, you have money, you have arts, you have so many, and everyone can claim one or two gifts. They don't have to have it all. Anyhow, this is the world in which we were sent by the divine realm to break these bondages. Yeah, this is why we came, to break these bondages. When we arrived in 3D, however, upon birth, we entered into this world in which they use the book of knowledge to activate timelines on you and to create that scenario as a reality. Yeah. For this reason, they will literally abduct you into one of their families and they will create this reality on you. This is the book of knowledge they create and they use on daily basis. This is the world we came in and we came to break this. Yeah. And God says, give examples now because it's late. Give examples. Okay, I'm going to get to the examples. I guess I was just avoiding it because I don't like to talk about my own case. So I was giving general an explanation. But now I'm going to talk straightforward because God insisted. He actually asked me yesterday to do this and I didn't want to. And he showed me over this past night why I need to talk about it. So my parents, the parents that brought me up are not my parents. Of course, they abducted me when I was an infant from a different country. So they were sent by these organizations. My father, my adoptive father, was an inter officer. So he worked with these individuals, with these structures, and they sent him in a different country to abduct me upon birth. God has shown to me a lot of bondage being created upon the woman who gave me birth, in order for her to be abandoned, alone, and in very precarious situations. So they drugged her during the time of close to giving birth. So it was easy for organization there to abduct and swamp children to her, gave her a totally different child. And then literally they sold me because they had contract with the convent in Romania here. Yeah. So they had contract. And so they gave her another child. They took me. And of course, in exchange for certain benefits, they gave me to the people who I thought were my parents all my life. Now, once they brought me to Romania because there are many convents in the world and everyone is looking for these individuals with divine rights, they will hide you for a while and they will aim to change everything about you so you won't be recognized and claimed by others, and you will never be able to find out the truth about yourself. Okay. So for this reason, when they brought me to Romania, they placed me in an orphanage, in a gypsy convent orphanage, organized by a gypsy convent. And for 3 years, there was no record of me. Even to this day, my certificate of birth is dated 3 years later than my actual birth. I even asked one time my adoptive father, I said, why there is no record of me for 3 years? Why there is no picture of me as a newborn, as anything, up to 3 years? Why there is no picture of your wife being pregnant? Why, anyhow? So they, in this time, they literally changed the date of birth, the nationality, because they abducted me from a different continent, not even from Europe, from a totally different continent. My religion, because it was a totally different religion there. My ethnicity, because even today, if you ask him, he says, I do not know all this information. I don't know who tells you who's God, who tells you all this. I just know I took you from an orphanage which was kept by a gypsy convent. Literally, he says this to me. So they changed everything about me. Everything about me. But they didn't tell me any of this. Don't imagine. I learned through bondage breaking. And I confronted him at some point when God showed me to do it after the first spiritual journey after 2020. I confronted him when I returned from my first spiritual journey. But I already knew the truth from God at that point. I only confronted him to see how if he will confess the truth and what he will say. God showed me, he said, confront him so you will see how he lies to you. Anyhow, um, for this, they got jobs in certain structures. As I said, my adoptive father has been Intel officer all his life. And they were sent in certain countries uh, which had connections with me and the bondage to be created on me. In certain countries where I was born, in certain countries in which I was supposed to play a role, or certain countries in which their structures made contracts to buy rights from my divine rights. Yeah, so they sent them there with the job, taking me with them, of course, for this purpose, for bondage to be created upon me. Yeah. Um, they basically, this is just in a nutshell, in a few words. So this is why you need to question, because it's very difficult to say this, but the evilness and the extent to which they will keep to this fake reality which they created, it's bewildering. And because they make these statements on you, and as long as you do not find out and state the truth, um, and as long as they have parental rights, this is taken as truth by all astral active structures. Yeah. Um, in those times of Nazi regime, God showed me I was not incarnated, but the woman that carried the embodiment which I came here to break. So I came here to break the bondage created on this woman who was in prison, and these two individuals who adopted me in this lifetime were her prison guards. Their job was to keep her locked up, to drug her, to put poison in her food, in order for Nazis to gain more information, and because they were torturing her to accept certain things they were proposing. And the guards, the two individuals, which became my parents in this lifetime, had the purpose to put poison in her food and drugs in her food in order to weaken her, to weaken her will, her strength, to force her to accept what they were trying to force upon her. Yeah. Um, so they literally had the same role at me in this lifetime. And I'm trying not to get into much detail, but literally they had the purpose and the job to give information on me, and to um, treat me and tell me certain things which will inflict certain hooks energetically, emotionally on me. If you will, the type of karmic behavior of gaslighting and trying to tear you down, and tear you down as self-confidence, and so on, and to block you from taking action and being yourself. The point was, and God has shown to me who and what orders gave to them, was that we need to control her. We need to have hooks on her to control her emotionally, because we know that there will be others coming after her, and we need to know that we can control her, and we can find out information of anything that goes on around her. Anyhow, um, this is why you need. Now I will give you a few examples. God says give a few examples so people will understand. um, for this, they forced me at some point, they forced me to get married to a certain individual who was working with the Intel structure, which was a placeholder. And literally the order was that we need her to marry this one because this one answers to our orders. And we already sold all her divine rights. She cannot wake up now and stand up on her own feet and demand that she wants a career, that she wants this, she wants that, or a business or a family or so and so, because we sold even her marriage rights. We sold everything. So she must be kept down. She must marry one individual which answers to our call and will do upon her what we tell him to do. And there are already men who are asking and looking for her to. And indeed, at the time, I was getting proposals from different individuals. I was very young. I was not even 20 years old. And I started working for 2 years at 18 of age. And there were indeed certain men that I met at my workplace, and they were trying to get me to go out with them. They were inviting me out, you know. Somehow, now I understand why. My parents wouldn't allow me. And I was like, nah, I'm old enough. Everyone around me is dating. Why I cannot date somebody who actually wants me to go to a party together? Anyhow, they forced me to get married to this individual. And at the time, I told them, but he doesn't love me. I know he doesn't love me. I broke up with him because I know he doesn't love me and he doesn't make me happy. And literally, bottom line, they forced me to marry him in the end. And I did at some point because the pressure was too much. And again, the man was a placeholder, and so that was not a marriage. We had, uh, as much as I tried to make it work as a marriage, that man had absolutely no interest in me, and he was showing that uh, at all times. And he was working with them, doing a lot of slander and a lot of defamatory affirmations about me. Anyhow, back to my parents. Um, they stole my inheritance. One individual who loved me was an uncle of mine who was killed by them because he loved me and he was protecting me and he was trying to help me. Um, and when he died, he left as inheritance to me everything he owned, everything he had. Um, my adoptive parents and his spouse, which was my aunt, sister to my adoptive father, stole my inheritance. Never actually spoke in my name because I was 12 years old when my uncle died. So they spoke in my name and they say she doesn't need it. She doesn't need it. She has a home. She stays with us. She doesn't need it. And they took some of it for themselves and they sold the house, the property, the car, everything. At some point, they split it among themselves. I never saw one penny out of it, including one car which I won, which was not part of the inheritance separately. I won as a child, I won at lottery a car, and they took that as well. And basically, um, God has shown me. I want to tell you why, because I said, I many times I said why they did this, because you were growing up, and at that point, it was before I got married, 1 year before I got married, and at that point, I was standing up. I said, I don't want to marry this man. I want to have my own house. I don't. He doesn't love me. I want to have my own career. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to create a business. I never wanted to enter into institutional. Governmental institutions. I didn't like that world. I wanted to be a businesswoman or an artist or a professor. But, well, they forced me to get hired into those institutions in the end. And of course, at some point, I understood why. They forced me also to get married to this individual in the end. And God showed me they stole the inheritance because you couldn't go to live on your own. If you had a home, you had where to go, they knew you would leave. And in fact, this is how they stole my inheritance. I wanted to go to the seaside, and they forbid me. And I said, "This is a weekend. I'm already working on my own money, and I'm adult, over 18. I want to go to the seaside for the weekend." They forbid me, and I left on my own. I said, the hell with you. That's enough. I'm going to the seaside by myself that this weekend. And when I returned, actually, they sold everything, all the inheritance, all the property, everything. And at the time, I didn't know about all this. And I said, why you sold the house? God showed me, because you couldn't, they were risking too much that you would go live on your own. They wouldn't have info on you. They couldn't control you anymore. This was the problem. So because of this, they sold everything. They were told to sell everything and split the money among themselves. Later on, my adoptive father worked with my ex-husband family to steal my own house, which I bought by myself with my ex-husband. I sacrificed my career because we didn't have a home. And my husband said, at the time, my husband, he said, you cannot create a business and all this and all that. You need to sacrifice yourself so we can get a home if you want a home. So then I had to accept to sacrifice my career and work for a certain time, go abroad in Washington D.C. in order to get money and buy a house, which I did. And my adoptive father worked with parents of ex-husband, because at some point I actually divorced that individual. Um, to steal that house, which I bought with the work I made, with the sacrifice I made. Not even him. He didn't make any sacrifice. He just followed me. He dictated to me, you will sacrifice these years and you will do business after we get the home. And I did that. I sacrificed my career to get a home, which they stole from me again. This one bought from my own work, from my own money. And at that point in time, it was very surprising to me, because I had the money. I sent the money from United States to my adoptive father. So he, together with the mother of my ex-husband, would buy the house for me. And I explained to them which house. I gave them um, formal documents of uh, power of attorney to buy the house for me. And there are records that I have sent, and I made the power of attorney at notariate, at consular section, and when the divorce came, and the mother of my ex-husband pushed to steal the house, my adoptive father said, let her get it, because I wanted to fight for my house. I said, why? It's my house. I bought it. I sacrificed my entire life, all these 10 years, only to buy this house. And now she's taking the house? What do you mean? My ex-husband said, oh, but you will buy another house later, then your parents will die, will give you inheritance. That's okay. You should leave this to me, because we already made documents on my mother's name, so you cannot fight it. I checked with a lawyer. You cannot fight it. And you shouldn't make such a scandal, because you're going to have another money and you're going to be able to buy why you need a home anyway. This is what my ex-husband said. My adoptive father said, no, leave all and come and live with us. At the time, I couldn't see what was going on. I just couldn't understand why everybody's against me. And it was heartbreaking for me, of course, because these were very close people that I loved dearly. And so I said, fuck you all. I'm getting my own home. I'm not going to live with any of you. I'm divorcing you. I'm cutting you off. I'm cutting you off. I'm cutting everybody off. That's enough. There was also my ex-boss who was working with them in order to block me on my career path. Anyhow, I got my own home. I made a loan and I got my own home. Uh, uh, and my aunt, that was in 2004, 2005. Then, few years later, my aunt, the wife of my uncle, who left me the inheritance, probably felt guilty, as she was very old and getting close to death. She felt guilty, and she said, I will sell the house I live in, which was part of my inheritance. Anyhow, was just what was left of my inheritance. Everything else was sold. A house, a big farmhouse was sold, the car was sold, everything was sold, but this very small property was left for her to live in, which was a loft in the city. Yeah. So she said, I will sell this and I will give you the money to pay your mortgage, because I see that it's the burden, financial burden is too much on you. It's taking more than 95% of your salary every month. And I cannot see you struggle like this. I understand now that she felt guilty, basically. She felt guilty at that point in time, because they stole everything from me, and my inheritance. And also, they helped my ex husband to steal my house. And I was literally struggling financially. And she did this. She sold the loft and gave me. Um, she came together with her brother, which is my adoptive father. So they gave me the exact money to pay the mortgage. So they paid the mortgage directly to the bank. Literally, this is what they did. That happened in 2007. Yeah. Um, Now to this day, my adoptive father says publicly that he paid for that house, which is not true. The money came from the loft which my aunt sold. She gave me the money, and that loft was part of the inheritance which they stole from me in the very beginning. Yeah. But he will say this lie because they need, through him, these institutional organizations, convents, they make claims on your properties and whatever you have. And this is important to them. I will tell you why shortly. Um, but God asks me to give you these examples directly in details. So I have to. So in 2007, I paid my mortgage and so on. Later, much later, in the same year, my father went through heart surgery. After a few months after I paid my mortgage, and I was leaving, going to Germany, being sent abroad by my job, um, and he went through a heart surgery. So I had to pay. I had to. I mean, he needed 10,000 euro for the surgery. So at the time, I didn't know they still had money from my inheritance, and they stole my inheritance. So I made a loan and I paid his surgery, thinking he doesn't have money. But God showed me later on he had lots of money from your inheritance at the time. He just didn't want to pay, um, because they need you to be indebted financially and burdened financially for many reasons. One reason is energetically, because emotionally, because they can work on your root chakra and your emotions, making you concerned financially. That's one thing. Second, you don't have resources to develop anything. Um, Third, they can make bondage on your financial abundance to steal more from you. Look, she is very poor manager of the money, but I was not poor manager of the money. They were stealing from me all the time. That was the only thing. Anyhow, time passed by. In 2016, I decided in a different way. Actually, I was forced into deciding to move to the place I am here in Chernica. So literally what I did, because it's already too long,